Hi everybody, Charles here. Welcome to Backroads Living. We've been seeing a lot of things go on in our country over the past year, and the greatest burden that we've seen on this country has been the supply chain breakdown, and it continues even as we speak right now. It's just not spoken about as much. We still see it happening all over the United States. And it seems to be happening in pockets with a lot of things as far as the grocery chain is concerned. A lot of stores are getting in more stuff than others. A lot of stores are running out of more stuff than others. We see a lot of stores that are putting up signs such as this that says one item per person, or even possibly 2 items per person. And there's just a whole lot of that going on around the country. So we need to keep in mind that even though things seem to be a little bit more stable right now, they're really not more stable than they had been. And all the people who are in the know on this stuff, the projectors, the professional people, they're all predicting that this is going to continue right on through 2022. But before we get into the video, let me say, give us a thumbs up. Like the video. I see a lot of videos out here that have 100,000 views on them sometimes, and they won't have 5,000 likes. And what it is I think a lot of people are afraid that folks might know that they've liked a video or something. Nobody knows who likes the video. It's just a number. It doesn't attach your name to it or anything like that. It's just a number. So if you don't mind, give us a thumbs up. Subscribe to our video and click that bell icon to be notified when we upload our new videos in the future. And one of the things we also have is our Backroads Living prepping group over on Facebook. If you have a Facebook account and you haven't joined our prepping group, we more than welcome you there. It's a place where we try to keep up with what's going on, and we also share the knowledge of prepping. The people over there have a lot of knowledge and a lot of understanding, just like they do here on YouTube, of prepping. So be sure and join that group if you've not already. We welcome you over there. We really appreciate you, and we appreciate all of our folks over there already. But and our moderators over there are wonderful people. You'll like them as well. But what I wanted to talk to you about today is the supply chain is still in trouble. It's still having problems right now. And I would advise you that if you find things that you need, if you have holes in your pantry, fill them up. If you've got holes in your preps when it comes to your cooking utensils, fill them up. If you've got holes in your preps that pertain to your outdoors activities, outdoor working, whatever it may be, tools, gardening, whatever, doesn't matter, fill it up. You need to get those holes filled, because we don't know what's coming. All this chatter going on right now around the world with China, the UK, and the United States, and all these things that's being said back and forth, everything that's going on with this general and all that stuff right now. We just don't know. We don't know what's going on. They try to keep everybody in a state of confusion, so we don't know what's happening. So in my opinion, I think we need to continue to be prepping hard and putting things back that we need. Now, Sandy and I'm not throwing this at anybody. This is just our preference, okay? Sandy and I don't celebrate holidays. We don't celebrate Christmas or any of the holidays like that. And there's a lot of people that don't, but I know there's a lot of people that do. And when you have a supply chain breakdown, it affects the folks that do celebrate holidays. So this is one of the articles that I had run across I wanted to share with you. It said, executive warned customers to brace for continued shortages and price hikes in 2022. And this guy said, I half jokingly tell people, order your Christmas presents now. Well, we're going to find out in just a few minutes after we look at this article that it really shouldn't be a half jokingly, it should be wholeheartedly. But anyway, when we look at this right here, it says that here we go. Companies are preparing for historic supply chain snags to continue into 2022. Scott Price, the president of UPS, United Parcel Service, said on Sunday that low global vaccination rates especially in developing countries, were likely to contribute to increased shortages in the coming year. The logistics industry does not see 2022 as having any less disruption in supply chains than in 2021, Price told AFP and international news agency located in Paris. Now, the USP fella here, he is the president of the UPS, and he said he doesn't see any less disruption in 2022 than he did in 2021 because the supply chain has been damaged, and it takes a long time to repair things like this that have been damaged. He said, since the onset of the pandemic, a boom in demand has overwhelmed the supply chain. Transportation has struggled to keep up as rising demand met COVID-19 shutdowns, labor shortages, and historic weather occurrences causing a lack of shipping containers and supplies alongside major price hikes. Price's comment came as overseas shipping rates, now listen to this, between Asia and the U.S. hit an all-time high. Judah Levine, the head of research at Freightos, told Insider that shipping prices between the two regions had jumped 500%. Can you imagine that? Shipping prices between Asia and the United States have jumped 500% from this time last year. So, we know what that means. That means when shipping prices jump 500%, the cost of goods are going to have to go up more. Will they go up 500%? Well, probably not, because you're going to have a lot of items in one container that the cost can be spread out over them, but it is going to cause an increase in price on your goods that you get. So let's go to this next one right here. It says toys could be in short supply this Christmas, so get buying now, industry warns. Now, we read an article here a while back that mentioned that many toy suppliers were struggling getting their stuff shipped. And a lot of them were struggling keeping enough employees there to get their toys manufactured and put together. And then when they did get them put together, they had struggled having enough workers in the warehouses to get them out to the containers. And then once they get them to the containers, they were struggling getting them shipped over to the States. And then once they got to the States, we saw there on the East Coast, all the way from Washington down through California, that there was tons of containers sitting out in the Bay Area that couldn't get unloaded. And we even had them sitting out in the ocean there on the other side of the bridge that couldn't come in and unload their containers because of a lack of help, they said. So this is just increasing more and more, and it's not decreasing at all, and it's going to continue to do this. It says it may be August, but the nation's toy shops have already issued an alarming plea to parents desperately trying to enjoy a summer break. If you know what your child wants for Christmas and you want to avoid the most frantic scramble for presents in years, buy it now and hide it in a cupboard. Seasoned figures in the toy industry have told the Observer that consumers will face higher prices and greater scarcity on the shelves this Christmas as a result of a perfect storm of economic pressures that have disrupted their plans. Despite their best efforts, they warned it was already too late to resolve the bottleneck in time for this year. So, if you're going to be doing Christmas, if you celebrate the holiday, right now is the time to get what you need if you know what you're going to be getting, and put it back and hide it. Because if you wait, there's every chance in the world that you won't get it. He said, I don't want to be an alarmist, said Gary Grant, founder of the entertainer chain of toy shops, but I can say that there will be more hunting around for things at Christmas than there has been for a good number of years. My advice would be, as soon as parents know either what they want to buy their children or what their children are already asking for, if you see it, buy it and hide it to avoid disappointment. Some bigger chains have already been trying to hoard stock to head off supply problems. Now listen to what's going on here. But there's a limit to the warehouse space they have available. Our warehouses are bulging, said Grant, but half of the whole year's turnover in the toy trade is made in the last quarter. Listen to that. Half of the whole year's turnover in the toy trade is made in the last quarter. We don't have warehouses big enough to hold our full demand of stock. They're not going to be able to get the stock in. They're not going to be able to get the toys in. If they could get them in, they can't turn them over because they don't have enough room to stock them. They just couldn't get them if they had them available. And the problem is they're not available right now. So let's move into the next one right here. It says severe shortages are being projected to stretch long into 2022. Now, both of these articles I just showed you are in September. Now, it says, this is an opinion piece right here on this part. It says, thanks to extreme disruptions caused by the global response to the pandemic, millions upon millions of Americans are going to have a very disappointing holiday season. Supply chains are in a state of complete and utter chaos all over the world, and now we're being told that it will remain this way for the foreseeable future. And that is actually a best case scenario. If a new variant comes along that causes even more global disruptions, the shortages that we're expecting right now could become even more dire. Think about this just a second. We are probably one of the most dependent countries in the world on China's goods that are shipped out. We have crippled ourselves in the sense that we no longer manufacture much of what we need, our actual needs, not just our wants, but our actual need right here in the United States. And we have allowed our industries to become non-existent that at one time made those things that we need. They're no longer here anymore. So if China were to cut us off of the stuff that they ship to us, we would be in dire hurt right here in the United States. It would hurt us more than if they invaded our nation, and made war with us. Just cutting us off with the exports would do more harm than them invading our country. So keep that in mind and keep a watch on what's going on in China, because they have a huge, huge impact on us as a nation. And it shouldn't be, but that's how it is. Our elected leaders have allowed this to happen. It says we're so vulnerable right now, and any unexpected twists or turns could easily make things a lot worse. Earlier in 2021, the mainstream media was full of optimistic talk about how wonderful the second half of the year would be, but now reality is starting to set in, and we're beginning to see and understand that the media is just that. They're just a bunch of talking heads, and they say what they're paid to say. They don't anymore. They're not journalists. They're just talkers. The following comes from a Washington Post article entitled, How the Delta Variant Stole Christmas. Empty shelves, long waits, and yes, higher prices. Remember what we said a while ago, that this person said that their prices had increased 500% in a year's time. I'm afraid there's simply not enough time to get products on the shelf this year, said Isaac Larriton, chief executive of MGA Entertainment, the toy giant behind Rainbow High and such popular lines as LOL, Surprise, and Little Tax. He's saying right here, this is a mega thing right here. This is a mega business right here. These people are MGA. He said there's not enough time to get products on the shelf this year. The holidays are going to be very tough, and frankly, a lot of families are not going to be able to get the toys they want. So if you celebrate Christmas, again, I would highly advise you, when you find something you know your children are going to want, you might want to go ahead and get it. And let me go even further right here, as we're talking about celebrating Christmas. If you're struggling with money, if you're struggling with your finances, if you've been laid off and you don't know what the future holds for you, I would suggest sitting down and explaining this to your children. Children are very resilient, and they are very understanding, way more so than people ever give them credit for. But if you'll take the time to sit your children down and tell them that maybe you're just going to be having a big ham and a big dinner for Christmas this year, and there's not going to be a bunch of toys, most children are adaptable to that if they expect it ahead of time. You don't just drop it on them on Christmas morning when you get up and say, well, kid, we didn't have any money to buy you anything, we blah, 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 blah. No, go ahead and tell them ahead of time. Make plans. Make some candies and things like that for them. They don't have to have a bunch of expensive toys that is going to be put in the trash the following month anyway. You're better off to be stockpiling right now than anything. Stockpiling food and clothing and things like that. Get them clothes. Get them some good clothes, winter clothes and things like that for Christmas if you need to buy Christmas. Remember when Kamala Harris gave us a very similar warning? She said you need to buy your Christmas early. If there's toys that you want to buy, you should try to get them as soon as possible because the supply crunch is only going to intensify. Even the biggest voices in the mainstream media are now admitting that these shortages are not going to be resolved anytime soon. The following comes from a New York Times article entitled, "The World is Still Short on Everything, Get Used to It." Pandemic-related products shortages, from computer chips to construction materials, were supposed to be resolved by now. Instead, the world has gained a lesson in the ripple effects of disruption. We're seeing what happens when something's, it all has effects all the way down the line at different times of the day, different times of the week, different times of the month. But it's just a ripple effect, and it continues to happen. The economic optimists assured us that the economy would be booming by now, but instead the shortages are worse than ever. Earlier today, this fella came across a local news story about the painful shortages that a small business in western Massachusetts are currently dealing with. I'm going to show you that and then come back to this. Right here's that. It's not really an article, it's a clip here I want to show you.
Good evening and welcome to 22 News at 5:30. I'm Don Shipman.
And I'm Ciara Speller. Local businesses are still hurting from the pandemic, but for reasons that have nothing to do with restrictions.
So 22 News reporter Jillian Andrews now from our Hampshire County Bureau with much more on this.
Silverware, takeaway containers, food items, you name it, and it's probably in short supply. Harold's Ice Cream Shop in Northampton struggling to restock the most basic supplies.
The last 2 weeks we've had problems with these spoons. We're an ice cream store, we need spoons.
The lack of certain ingredients now impacting the shop's menu.
It's been annoying at times, and we've had to make changes just because I can't make something if I don't have the raw materials to make it.
During a pandemic, a shortage of something like takeaway containers can obviously cause some issues.
It's been a lot of scrambling, bouncing around from here to there, buying stuff from Stop and Shop like Big Jam, retail containers, which are obviously much more pricey, but you just kind of have to roll with the punches.
Brow leaving a message to customers on behalf of all local businesses.
Just understand and be patient with businesses and just realize we're doing the best we can.
So, we found there.
They did say that supplies have been trying to communicate, providing weekly.
Trying to communicate with the suppliers. It doesn't help you to communicate with them if you can't get the product in. So this has been a really hard thing for people. One of the things that I read in another article here today was the fact that many businesses that have been paying $1,500 per container to get a container of toys in, to get a container of whatever it might be that their business needed, that they were now paying sometimes as high as $30,000 for a container. That just a few months ago before this started, well, last year before this started, they were paying $1,500 a container for it. So not only is it becoming more difficult to get that stuff over to us from Asia, it's costing 500% more to get the container shipped from Asia to the United States. And then when it reaches the United States, then the actual store is having to pay, rather than the $1,500 that they used to pay, now they're paying upwards to $25,000 to $30,000 per container. So you can expect your toys to be quite a bit more expensive this year, I think. And that's going to roll right on down to the food chain and everything else. Everything's going to cost more, and we're already seeing that in the stores, and there's going to be more and more shortages as we go on. So I would highly advise everybody that if you have holes, you need to be stocking them up. If you're going to be getting things for Thanksgiving, for Christmas, for any of these holidays that's in the future, I'd advise you to go ahead and get that stuff now and get it put back. Get your hams, put them in the freezer, get your turkeys put back now, get whatever you're going to get. We saw a video the other day where a person was shopping for turkeys, and we saw turkeys that was costing $80 and $90 right here in the United States. I don't remember which state they were in, but it was just crazy. Some of these prices that was in some of these stores. And I continue to see in our groups that we follow, I continue to see grocery stores and big box stores like Walmart with huge shortages in certain areas and more signs going up that's saying one per customer. So folks, it's time to get it. The shortage is not over. The supply chain is not fixed, and it is going to continue. So keep that in mind, and don't forget to always prep your soul. Yeah, that's something that's of most importance. And then next, prep your pantries and prep your preps. Always have a second prep going on somewhere, okay? And until then, we'll see you in the next video.